Hey guys, welcome to Fun and Gun. Got a pretty cool one here for you today. I want to go ahead and say a big thank you to my buddy over at the He Teaches My Hands to War YouTube channel for letting me borrow this particular gun for this video. If you want to see him shoot this gun in some IDPA competitions and also his review on this gun and a little bit more in depth of some of the things he's done to this particular gun, you can go ahead and check out his channel linked in the description below there. So what we got here today is an Archon Type B. This is a gun I've been interested in for quite some time now, the original generation, and also back when it was the Strike 1, the full-size gun of it, which is what this is based off of. I actually had a chance to shoot one of those quite a few years back and thought it was pretty cool then, and just never got around to picking anything up that used this particular action. And after shooting this particular version of the gun last year at CanCon, suppressed obviously, kind of really was looking forward to getting a chance to shoot one of them without the suppressor on the end up, just to see how the recoil impulse actually felt on it. And it's actually pretty different because of the way the action works is they call this the AF speed lock, and instead of being a Browning tilt action, it actually has a little block in there that comes down and unlocks the slide so it can cycle, and the barrel itself is similar to a fixed barrel. It doesn't actually tilt down. We'll get a little bit more into that once we disassemble it, but let's go ahead and head out to the range, shoot this a little bit, and we'll come back in here and talk about it a little bit more and get up a little bit more close about it and talk about a few things my buddy's done to this particular gun. Okay, pretty excited to put some rounds through the Archon here. Let's go ahead and shoot a little bit with some 115 grain. Okay, gonna go ahead and put a little 124 grain NATO through the Archon here, and gonna go ahead and show you something else I noticed that it'll do here. It's pretty interesting. Is it will drop the slide with the loaded magazine if you slam it into the mag well. So let's go ahead and shoot some NATO through this particular setup here. Okay, let's head back into the table and we'll talk about this gun a little bit more. Okay, as you see there out on the range, we went ahead and tried it with a few different ammos, and the 115 grain we were shooting there was just some Federal 115 grain brass case, and the NATO was some Winchester 124 grain. And really the way this action's set up, it actually does shoot pretty soft and quite flat as well. And the way this grip is set up, you do get a nice high grip on this particular pistol, allowing you to go ahead and control the recoil quite well. And that is what this setup is specifically, kind of the way the action and everything's supposed to work is. It's supposed to help manage recoil. It does it quite well. Something that my buddy is considering doing to this and will more than likely do, and you'll be able to check out on his channel at some point, is port this gun, or have it ported, that is. And one thing about this gun is unloaded. I'm going to go ahead and remove the magazine here and drop the slide. And I'd have to agree with him, it would look quite cool to have this little pocket where it's dipped down ported. The nice thing about that pocket is if you're doing a press check or just want to use the front of the gun to cock the gun, that little pocket right there gives you somewhere for the web of your thumb to go down into and just get a hold of it nicely. So that is pretty cool. And let's go ahead and talk about a few other things that he's done to this gun that was something he didn't like when he first picked it up. Number one being the trigger. I will say, trigger took me a little while to get used to because it does have quite a bit of take up in it with the pivoting action there for the safety there. So gun is unloaded. Go ahead and show you that. You got a little bit of take up. That is the take up for the safety itself, and then a little bit of more take up. There's actually the trigger slack, and you get a pretty nice break there and a pretty decent reset. And when he picked this gun up originally, he said that the trigger on it was actually quite gritty, and instead of just going ahead and spending the time to let it shoot and break in, he just went ahead and popped it apart and polished a few things in there and went ahead and smoothed it out. So your trigger, when you get these from the factory, is not going to be the best from what I understand, but you can, with a little bit of time, go ahead and polish a few things and get a pretty awesome trigger out of this. And Another thing he went ahead and did here was on the back side of the beaver tail here, this edge was more squared off to start with, and it was actually digging into his knuckle right here and a little bit on the back side of his hand. So he went ahead and just sanded that off. So something right out of the box that, depending on your hand size, this could rub your hand. So I figured go ahead and cover that. And one other thing he changed while I'm thinking about it, and this was a pretty big one, he said, was that the magazine release out of the box was extremely difficult to press, which it's still a little bit gritty and kind of hard to press now. And that's after he's actually taken this particular magazine release completely apart and polished most of the internals of it. And he actually went ahead and put a shim in behind it to extend it out a little bit so you get a little bit more leverage on pressing it. And on top of that is, as you can see there, it still protrudes pretty significantly on the opposite side of the gun. And that is even after he went ahead and sanded this off and re-blued it, because it was to the point where he was trying to drop the magazine and it was pushing into the other side of his hand there and preventing the magazine from being able to release. So a few things there that right out of the box, depending on your hand size and just how you grip the gun, that could be a little bit of an issue for you. But that is the stuff that I know has been changed on it, so I figured I'd go ahead and cover that up front. And cool thing about this particular pistol is not only is it similar to the way the 320 is, you can pull the entire chassis system out of it and work on that alone, and then you could drop it into a different grip module if you wanted to, because that is the serialized part. The grip itself is modular on top of that, and it is currently in the compact configuration using the 15 round magazine that comes with the gun, and that is the flush fit for the 15. And you have multiple different back straps on top of that, and you actually get another little spacer that goes in right here in between this, and that allows you to use your 17. It actually says 17 on the magazine, but on the website it says 18, so this is an 18 round magazine according to the website. But when you put that in there, your shim's going to fill that gap in, and you're going to get a full grip, which is kind of weird, because if you bring in my Zev here, which is set up as a 45 or Glock 45 style size with the longer grip and the short slide, it is actually, take the magazine out of this gun's also unloaded, and if you put these guns side by side, the grip on the 17 or on my gun is actually a little bit longer, not by just a whole lot. Most of that length is the mag well itself. You take the mag well off and they're almost identical in length. And why I mention that is because this is a 17 round mag, this is the 18 round mag that comes with this gun. It's just a touch longer, literally 1 round longer, and your 15 rounds a couple of rounds shorter. But what I'm getting after here is when you lay this magazine on the side of this, it is just a little longer than this magazine, but the grips are almost the same length. So kind of weird to me that this is essentially the same size as a Glock 45 or a 19X, even with the fact that this has my it has a radiant afterburner ramjet combo on it. So this is roughly the same length as a Glock 17, and you put these side by side, and this comes out to almost the same size as what I'm getting after as a Glock 17. But this is considered the compact version of it. And when you put the extended grip on there, you're going to have a pretty unproportional size gun, I guess. You're going to end up with a really long grip and about the same size slide as a 17. So kind of weird in that aspect. Figured I'd go ahead and just kind of mention that there. I thought that was kind of interesting how that's set up, but it is pretty cool how modular that is. You can, like I said, right off the bat, you can make it whatever length you want, change the back strap on it. You can even change the grip texture completely. It comes with the Talon grips, kind of the rubbery grip on there. You can go ahead and peel all these off, put the sandpaper grips, which is something he has ordered, because I don't disagree with him that when your hands got a little bit of sweat on them, that this particular grip texture that comes on it from the factory is pretty slippery. So kind of disappointed in that, but it is pretty cool how they made it so easy to go ahead and change the grip texture. And the panels are actually kind of inset into the frame, so when you put the sandpaper in there, it'll still have a nice factory flush look. They also offer the Talon grip, the Pro Grip, and it's kind of more of a shredded rubber grip. and it's going to offer quite a bit more traction. I have had handled one of my buddy's guns that had it on it, and it's definitely a lot better than just this right here, because this to me is, not a very good grip texture from the factory, but the fact that you do have the option of changing it easily, it's not really a knock to me. But I will say, if you do put something like the sandpaper grips on this, I do have a gun that has sandpaper on there as the grip tape, and you're going to end up with skin off your hands, build up into it, and it's going to get dirty looking, and the sandpaper wears off. So that makes your grip texture, it's essentially a disposable part that you're going to, definitely, this rubber, you can wear it out too. You'll eventually end up with smooth spots in it and stuff. So kind of for how much the gun costs, it's a cool feature, but the fact that you're going to have to, over time, continue to replace the grip on it, it's kind of a little bit annoying, but not too big of a deal. My buddy's also considering, after trying the sandpaper tape, he's going to see if he likes it more of an aggressive stipple kind of job. He might actually literally stipple the actual gun inside the borders here, just to go ahead and make it a permanent thing, because that way you don't have to go ever so often and replace your grips. So cool feature, but kind of annoying, I guess. So let's see here. Let's talk a little bit about when I was shooting it. Like I said, this gun definitely shoots quite flat. You do have a really low bore axis. The way this is designed, you have the little part that protrudes right here that presses into your hand, and it's supposed to make your hand lock tighter against the gun under recoil. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't notice anything different. I mean, you could have done without that, and you would have been able to ride the gun a little bit higher. So that's something they carried over from the original Strike 1, and it's kind of made it over to these as well. Let's see here, controls. I was talking about the magazine release and the fact that he did modify, but the thing is, you can actually pull it out and flip it around, so it is ambidextrous, so you don't get it on both sides, which is the way I prefer it, because if you had it on both sides, you can't easily squeeze it and drop the magazine on accident. So the fact that you can reverse that is ambidextrous, and you don't have an ambi slide release on this particular gun. So if you're left-handed, you're going to have to drop the slide with your trigger finger. Let's see here. From the factory, it has a red fiber optic front sight and a blacked out rear sight, which is my preferred style sight for a target pistol or a competition pistol. Not really what I prefer on a carry gun. I'd rather have a set of a set of Trijicon sights, night sights for that, but I'm sure they offer that. And this actually may take Glock sights. I'm not 100% sure. Just by looking at it, it does appear that it's threaded in. We'll look a little closer to that when we take the slide off here in a second. So let's go ahead and get on to the inside of this. And well, before we get to that, let me talk a little bit more about the trigger. The trigger, as a reference, if you've ever had any experience with a 320, this gun's also unloaded. This has the upgraded flat face trigger in it, because this is the Scorpion version of the gun, so it has a little bit better trigger. But the way the trigger breaks, you kind of get like a thunk on the 320. Not just really like this crisp break. That is a good trigger in my opinion once you get used to it. But that's kind of the same feel you get out of this once you get through all of the take-up. You kind of get a thunk with it as well, more than a snap. Not a big deal, but that is the way the trigger works. But let's go ahead and break this down. We'll look a little bit more on the inside of it. That's when this gun starts getting pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and cut, and I'll come back with it taken apart. Okay. We went ahead and popped our slide off here. Going to go ahead and show you a little bit more about how the inside of this looks. And this assembly process is not hard. It's just a little different than other guns. You're going to go ahead and lock your slide to the back, and you're going to go ahead and push your captured takedown pin here from the left side of the gun to the right side of the gun. And like I said, it doesn't come all the way out, so that's pretty nice. And it's pretty neat how this trigger actually works. Is you can see your trigger bar right here coming back, and then you'll see this little lever kind of cam to the left side of the gun, and that is actually what engages the striker in the bottom of the, or in the top of the slide here. So pretty different way that's set up. And it also, at the same time, when this is camming over, it's also going to disengage your slide or your striker block right here to go ahead and let the striker move forward. So pretty cool on how they did that. That also allows the slide to be really low mounted onto the gun. And what we're talking about, the way the slide's mounted on there, you have almost a full length rail on both sides. Got a few gaps here for different parts to pop up through it as you have to. But That means the slide is going to be very well mounted to the top of the gun here, so that is pretty cool that the rails run the entire length of the actual frame itself here. This is the part I mentioned earlier that is the serialized part of the gun that you can knock a few pins out of, pull out if you need to. So let's go ahead and get into the cooler part of this, and that is the action. And this is a 3-stage with a non-captured main recoil spring here, all metal guide rod assembly, so that is very well made. And right here is what they call the AF speed lock, and that is this little cam right here, and when the gun actually fires, this pin is inside of this, and it's going to allow this to pull down, and that is what's going to allow the barrel to cycle. And let's go ahead and take the barrel out here and show you how that fits on there. That's going to lock in to this groove right here that is milled into the barrel. So you get a nice firm lock up with this particular gun, and in the top of the slide, this block will engage into the channels here. And that is where your lockup for this comes from. It is not a Browning action, it actually tilts. And I mentioned I would check out the way this sight's mounted. It does screw into like a Glock sight, so not gonna 100% tell you this takes Glock sights, but it very well looks like it would. But this is a pretty cool setup in my opinion. I definitely like the way this little cut is. I mean, like I said before, it is functional. It's not a must, but it definitely looks cool. And I think when he gets this ported, it's gonna look awesome with that little divot down in there with the port sitting down in it. And you can get this gun in a variety of different versions. This is the RMR cut version of it. So the RMR style red dot will screw straight to the slide. This is a Swamp Fox Justice. And I'm gonna go ahead and make a full video on this as well, because I was actually pretty impressed with this red dot. It's the first time I've got to mess with one of these versions of the Swamp Fox. So you'll be looking out for a video comparing this to a Hollison competition, because that is a pretty cool red dot. I like that a lot. But yeah, so overall opinion of this gun, it's definitely made well. This actually is the one made in Germany, and I do hear that they are planning on building a factory in America and start making this particular gun in the US. So like my buddy said here, pick up one of the German versions of it now, because it could end up being kind of like a SIG later on, where this particular version of the variation of the gun could be rare. So that is pretty cool as well. So really, if this is one of the guns you're considering checking out, they definitely are very well made. Everything is well machined and locks together as it should. The gun has functioned 100% for me, and that's also functioned 100% for my buddy as well. So other than the few things I mentioned that he said that he had to do to this gun right off the bat, which was mess with the magazine release, and he polished the trigger, something you don't have to do. That's just preference thing. But the magazine release, I heard that was pretty horrible, and then he sanded this down. Other than that, gun's very ergonomic, fits really low in the hand, shoots flat, definitely made well. If it's something you're interested in, I would recommend checking one out. You're not going to be disappointed. It is a cool gun for sure. So that's all I had for you today. Okay, if you made it this far, I just want to say thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. If you're looking for more Fun and Gun right now, you can click one of the 2 recommended videos there. If you're looking for more Fun and Gun later, you can go ahead and click that there subscribe button. I sure would appreciate it. And if you're finding me from Facebook, go ahead and click that open app button at the top to make all that a lot easier. And I'll see you next time.